so I got a whiteboard. It's BD. For the past week or two, I've been rethinking my own PE theory as I learned a lot over the past year or two. So this is probably going to be a multi-part series of what I learned this year, and then I'll probably be wrong and I'll talk about it again next year. But before I get into it, I have a Patreon where I am trying to write 1 to 2 posts a month. It will be a curation of all my posts from Reddit. Reddit can be a bitch to navigate sometimes, so this just makes it easier for you to find the relevant information. Then I have Vigor, available at leviathansups.com and on Amazon. Essentially, it is the best bang for your buck nitric oxide boosting, stimulant-free pre-workout that me and my partner, Doc Hink, could formulate for that price point. So, might be worth your fancy. Finally, I have Peak Male Physique, where I sell penis enlargement aids that are not needed but can help. Also, I haven't used a whiteboard since high school, so if I'd use it inappropriately, forgive me. Also, if this is a dumb idea, let me know, I'll just stop. So we have 2 different tissues predominantly in the penis, okay? So we have the connective tissue. Sorry, I write like a serial killer. And then we have endothelial smooth muscle. And this is where you guys will see the bane of my existence is writing. Anyway, for simplicity, we're only talking about the connective tissue found in the Tunica albuginea and the connective tissue found in the corpus cavernosum, as those are the main components of the erection and penis in general. Now, 2 years ago, I would have told you that the healing response for the connective tissue of the Tunica albuginea was the same as the response in the the endothelial smooth muscle. First of all, I didn't even know that word at the time. Second of all, we don't use healing anymore because healing implies structural damage. What we're really doing is fatiguing the tissues to release the growth factors without actually causing harm to you. So that would be a much less time-intensive process to heal from. And yes, I realize this is a subtle difference. So for connective tissue, the proliferation time, or how long it takes for a new cell to develop, is 72 hours. And I'll link where I got the study from, or I'll link what study I got that from in the thingy down below. For connective tissue, no, for endothelial tissue, it's 21 hours. Again, I know my handwriting's atrocious. I don't even know if you can see it because of the glare. So this might not go over well. I might be redoing this video. But essentially, this is over 3 times this, right? So if connective tissue is 21 hours, not connective tissue, if endothelial tissue is 21 hours, and collagen or collagen fibroblasts, and if collagen fibroblasts take 72 hours to come back to baseline from proliferation, in the same time period it takes to grow 2 collagen fibroblasts, it produces and that's 5, 6, 7, 8 endothelial cells. So we have 8 new endothelial cells, blood-holding cells, and then we have only 2 new collagen fibrils in the same time period. So as you can see, the main bottleneck is going to be the Tunica albuginea. And I guess I'm just switching to brown because it shows up better. Anyway, also, all that information I found was in 2 hours before writing the script, just to get the specifics. It could be a little off, but the idea is that you'll produce many more blood-holding cells. But this is where it gets complicated, as connective tissue is literally built to be flexible. So as the number of endothelial cells increase, our connective tissue will subsequently get more flexible, therefore feigning an increase in tissue mass when we're really just when we're really just getting better at expanding. So that bottleneck is not always apparent until we're a couple years into penis enlargement. Now, there are a few reasons why this happens. One is cell type. Oh, this writes better too. So cells are programmed to have different proliferations depending on how much wear and tear they go through and like their own function. But connective tissues mainly don't have an active blood supply. So all that means is that things like ligaments do not receive blood, therefore they don't receive nutrients actively. They have to receive it passively through other tissues surrounding them. Now, you would think that since there's so much blood in the penis, it wouldn't really matter, but since the tunica is relatively thick and the corpus cavernosum is kind of encapsulated in its own system, it doesn't really pass all that well. Excuse me. So we could try taking a bunch of supplements for collagen production orally, but the issue is that it still needs to be digested and then delivered through the bloodstream. And the main bottleneck here is nutrient uptake via passive diffusion. So that won't work. Now, in theory, we would be able to dose amino acids either transdermally or via injection subcutaneously directly to the tunica albuginea to see an accelerated rate of growth response. However, this is largely speculation and don't take my word for it. That's actually a rabbit hole I'm going down. I'm looking for the main components of collagen in its amino acid form, and then I'm going to try to make it into either a transdermal lotion or some other kind of product that I will try out on myself. Anyway, back to the main topic. So like I said, it's literally a 2:8 ratio based off of my simple math board, yes, for cell replication. As I touched on already, the main thing working for us in this case is how quickly collagen adapts in flexibility. You cannot permanently, well, you can relatively permanently increase flexibility, but you cannot continuously get more and more flexible. There will just be a point where the new tissue just won't be able, not new tissue, the existing tissue won't be able to handle that strain. That is without an insane amount of work to work up to that micro improvement, and it won't be worth your while. Now, to better understand what I am talking about, we need to talk about how the penis works during erection. So I'm going to draw a shaft, just like any good teenage boy. All right, so this would be the tunica on the outside. We then have blood coming in from the root of the penis internally. So blood comes in that way, and then blood exits through the tunica albuginea. So do, and then it comes back around under the surface, back into the body. So what happens is during an arousal response, the smooth muscle in your penis is signaled to relax. That causes it to fill with blood. In turn, it pushes out against the tunica, and that's what causes you to get bigger during erection. Now, as your tunica becomes engorged or has pressure pushed against it, these little veins that run up the surface get shut down, or they close off due to the pressure, and then that pressure imbalance is what causes an erection. Then once you lose the arousal response, the soft tissue contracts, and then those veins open up, causing your penis to go back to its flaccid state. As I said in the beginning, the main two components for erection size are going to be your corpus cavernosum and your tunica albuginea, as those are the main parts of the erection response. Yes, your Gladstone plate, it's the same idea as the corpus cavernosum inflated, and that's not limited by the tunica. Your penis size and hardness are determined by two things. First, hardness is going to be blood holding tissue. saying blood tissue for short. Yes, I know that looks like a J. All right, over the connective tissue. Essentially, the more blood-holding tissue you have compared to the amount of connective tissue you have, the more pressure you can build up inside the tunica albuginea, and that's what causes increased and that's what increases your hardness and firmness, penile density. Meanwhile, just the sheer size of your connective tissue, your tunica albuginea, will determine how big your erection can be, as long as you have enough blood-holding tissue to support it. A lot of you guys starting out are going to have a decent amount of flexibility to work with. What I'm saying is that you'll have more room in your tunica to stretch farther and farther, meaning that you need to develop more blood-holding tissue, and since that develops faster, you'll see faster gains that way in the beginning. However, as that ratio decreases and you continuously get harder and harder, you need to focus on stretching out the tunica more and more, causing that change in structure needed to see more size, as you're going to need more tissue rather than more flexibility to continuously see gains. So the bottom line is as you get past your first inch to inch and a half in length, and about your first half an inch to inch in girth, you will see a dramatic slowdown solely because you cannot grow the connective tissue faster or as fast as the blood holding tissue. So that is my almost #1 priority when it comes to figuring out how to optimize this stuff. How the hell can we get the connective tissue to grow faster than it does currently? So this brings me to my first and really only recommendation at this current time, is that we need to add a bunch of weird bends and different kinds of stimulus to cause this connective tissue to secrete as much growth factors as we can in, say, an hour period. So let's talk about how the tunica is shaped first. So we have the longitudinal bands running down the first layer, okay? They'll be very closely touching, almost. They'll actually be almost fused. If anything, they are fused. Then over top these longitudes, we will have lateral rings surrounding the shaft, giving it its rigidity. Those longitudinal bands are going to be very easy to work with traditional stretches. Also, I should probably add that some of you poor unlucky bastards will have lines going that way too. That's probably about 2.5% of you. That's what would actually make you a hard gainer more than anything. We can do different kinds of stretches to cause weird forces along the connection points that cause them to break up more, therefore increasing the flexibility. So if we put pressure here, say with a lever, that's a nice little lever, right? Causing all these tissues to bend like this, these bands will open up. So they would open up like that, causing structural change over time. And then these longitudinal bands, I mean, will also be stretched like that. So you get a better stretch on this side, lesser stretch on this side, but that compression might actually help with flexibility going forward. Now, you can also twist this, and that would cause more stimulus along the longitudinal bands in a different sense, but those will predominantly be worked during your length training, so you really don't need to focus on it. That's why I say the meat and potatoes of tunica malleability, what I've been preaching for almost a year now, is going to be your semi-erect bends and fulcrum stretches, as that's what puts that weird stress along the latitude bands. I actually said it right this time. I just posted on Getting Bigger my current Tunica malleability routine for both length and girth. It is also on my Pornhub under the same name of this channel, BD Peak Male Physique. It would be a good place to get started if you don't know what I'm talking about. There's also a YouTube video where I snap a dildo in half to prove, or at least demonstrate, this method. And like I said before, I am looking into directly dosing amino acids, predominantly the ones that are found in collagen, transdermally or subcutaneously via injection. I'm not afraid of needles, so y'all should know that by now. That being said, nobody try this. Maybe you can try the transdermal before me. By all means, go ahead. It's not really going to affect you, but I do not want any of you to putting needles anywhere near your dick unless you have experience with intracavernous injections. This is an intracavernous, but you need to know what not to do to make sure you don't do it. So don't do this. I'm dead serious. The injections, that is. And then other peptides like BPC 157, again, don't touch it since it's a research compound and technically not legal, show great promise in tissue reformation. Essentially, from the research that I did back in March, it showed a 20 to 50% increase in collagen fibroblasts over a baseline and healing of an Achilles tendon rupture in a 2-week time period. So if we can eke out 50% faster proliferation of the tunica, granted, the Achilles tendon might actually have a decent blood supply compared to the tunica, but there is evidence showing that there is some form of connective tissue reformation being boosted by BPC 157. Again, don't do this. It's kind of dumb, but it's there in theory. All right. Since I suck at talking, I'm out of breath, and that actually covers it for today. So if you like this different style video, let me know. If you like this theory, or you have criticisms of this theory, let me know in the comments, or on Reddit, where I'll probably actually respond. Again, Patreon, Leviathan Sups, peakmalephysique.com for penis enlargement aids that are not needed but can help. And this is BD signing off.